good afternoon. Yeah, this will be in English, but I promise not to speak too fast, and I have written down it so that I hope I will be in time and not speak too long. In the next 20 minutes, I will present some findings of my very recent research in music listening behavior. Right from the start, I'd like to say that I do believe that we cannot predict the future of music listening. The most we can do is to speculate and try to justify those speculations as best we can. The history of music listening has repeatedly shown that major technological revolution is often a result of startling developments whose innovations go on to permanently change people's approach to music. Given this, what can I offer today? The Austrian music sociologist Kurt Blaukopf defined the goals of music sociology research as follows. The compilation of all social data relevant to musical practice, the classification of this data according to its importance for musical practice, and the recording of data of crucial significance in altering practices. Blaukopf applies the term musical practice to far more than just making or playing music oneself. He includes types of musical behavior, patterns of musical behavior, and musical behavior expectations. To make any serious predictions about the future of music, we have to turn our attention to the most important agents of social change, to those who most obviously demonstrate new musical behaviors, that is, adolescents and young adults. One of the main results of my research into music listening is that those who have grown up with the internet and mobile phones show considerably different approaches and listening habits compared to the thoroughly researched audiences of the analog era. At the same time, many people's musical behavior might be hardly influenced by digitalization. So how strong, in fact, are the effects of mass media and peer groups in establishing new ways of receiving music? In 2010, the Institute for Music Sociology conducted the first survey on musical attitudes and behavior of the Austrian population. A rerun was completed in summer 2015. More than 1,000 face-to-face interviews in each survey allow us to present valid data on music listening in the digital Musimorphoses. We have representative samples of the population in Austria regarding age, gender, education, income, migration, background, size of home, and regional affiliation. So that's fine for Austria, but who cares outside? You might say a small country with around 8 million inhabitants cannot be taken to represent global trends in music reception. Let me tell you this, in fact, there is no longer any global trend as such. You can see here an overview of the role that music streaming plays in different markets. In pioneering countries such as Sweden or South Korea, the share of streaming in the digital markets is extremely high, more than 90%, down on the right corner in green. Not just Austria, but also Japan, Germany, and the UK lie far behind, with a streaming share of between 18% and 30%. Left on the bottom, yellow, and France, La France is right in the middle. At least as regards the future market for music streaming, we can consider the similar initial situation of these four countries, and we can use the findings regarding the attitudes and behaviors of Austrians towards music to also make predictions about the second, third, and fourth largest global music market. In general, the Vienna's Institute for Music Sociology focuses its research on various aspects of how people experience music so that we can most clearly and comprehensively access Austrians' attitudes and behaviors towards music. The research findings I'm going to present today cover just a few of these. We will look at performance music and transition music, how music is used and integrated into everyday life, music consumption today and yesterday by comparing listeners' musical taste with those of their parents, preferences, dislikes, and how often people listen to different styles of music, media and social influences on music listening, and new and old music media and the way these are approached. The research project takes account of a whole range of social structural factors: gender, age, family structure, profession, income, migration background, size of town or city, education, and number of books owned. Looked at as a whole, age and education have the strongest influence on different music receptions. In my presentation, I'm going to focus just on differences related to age. The graphs all show results for digital natives compared to the over 25ers. And I'm only showing results which demonstrate statistically significant differences between the responses of the younger and the older people. So I'm assuming that young people's current behavior may become the norm in the future. Of course, we can't say for sure whether young people will in fact maintain their particular behavior later in life. For example, we know that a love of classical music is to a certain extent affected by age, and that fans of rock music tend to belong to a certain age group. At the end, we can of course discuss which of the young people's new patterns of musical behavior will be the future of music listening. So, let's start right in the middle. As regards music listening and other leisure time activities, the clearest differences between young and old are not actually in music listening. Rather, they are in going to the cinema and being with friends. Age group differences in listening to music in the background are just as insignificant as the differences in concert going. That's why I don't show it here. The yellow arrow in the left indicates that particularly strong relationships are written in capital letters. So being with friends and cinema has very strong relationships with age. In music events attended, the greatest differences are in clubbing. Whereas around 40% of young people went clubbing at least 6 times per year, 3/4 of the older people never did this at all. Brass music concerts, Austrian folk concerts, and rock concerts also showed significant differences. Little differences between the age groups was for classical concerts, operas, choral performances, jazz concerts, and musicals. There are very great differences between young and old as regards what people want to get from their music. Also, older people do also like music that makes them feel good. Only 35% of them rate this as very important, compared to 64% of younger people. Responses were similar for music to set the mood for parties and celebrations, for relaxing, and so on. Only the question of listening to music for cultural sophistication is just as unimportant for young people as it is for older people. For both young and old, music's role in everyday life is strongly shaped by mobile music players. 74% of young people and 56% of older people say that they really like listening to music on the move. That is in the car, on train or bus and so on. We can see very great differences in listening to music during sport, evening out and with friends. Neither young nor old particularly enjoy listening to music while eating or working. When we take a closer look at how much money people spend on music, we can see significant differences in spending on concerts, music streaming and music downloads. But it's particularly striking to see how, even among young people, only a small number are prepared to pay for downloading or streaming music. It's 32 and 21, respectively. However, concerts are very popular for young and old alike. So once again, this typology I showed you before. The music business research classification of Austria as a less developed streaming market is confirmed by the responses of consumers and not consumers. Thanks to Pierre Bourdieu's habitus theory, music preferences and taste have gained great prominence in music reception research. In Austria, certain music styles polarize, while others enjoy a wide audience. Along with level of education, age is also very influential here. Answers to our open question about people's favorite music show that electronic dance music and hip-hop are specifically younger tastes. By contrast, classical music, Austrian folk music and Schlager music are significantly less popular with young people than with older. Schlager music is a phenomenon particular to Austria, Germany and German-speaking Switzerland. Fans of this type of music are very loyal and are still ready to spend quite a lot of money for CDs. The red bar at the very bottom shows strong denial for heavy metal music. This style is polarizing young people more than elder ones. Asking people how often they listen to music is another way of finding out how popular different music styles are. Compared to the questions for preferences, the generation gap is even larger here for hip-hop and electronic dance, and we can see statistically highly significant differences between the under 25ers and older people. The differences for Austrian folk music and classical music are less marked. Apparently, day-to-day life in Austria results in younger people also hearing these music styles more often than they would consciously choose to. If we want to know about how parents' music tastes influence their children, we need to ask people about what music they listened to in their youth. So we asked our interviewees to think back to what music they most liked to listen to when they were 14 years young. We then asked them to recall the music that their parents preferred at that time. The results are extremely interesting, with Schlager music showing a greater influence than might be assumed from people's responses about music preferences. At the same time, the age groups differ less for hip-hop and electronic dance than for world music, Austrian folk music and classical music. Responders certainly didn't tend to identify their parents as the strongest influence on their music taste. Here, friends and the older forms of mass media, radio and TV, remained the most influential. For the over 25ers, parents are in third spot. For the under 25ers, it's the internet. The internet is also the only influence showing a statistically significant difference between the age groups. This difference, however, is extremely marked. We had expected something like this, but until now, there has nowhere been such clear scientific proof of the internet's formidable influence on digital natives' music tastes. You see here all but the internet bars in light colors because the differences are of no statistical significance. Only internet is from statistical significant, but to show you the other one marked it in light colors. The strongly contrasting attitudes to music on the internet are also reflected in responses regarding what devices people use to listen to music. Whereas for older people, radio remains the undisputed champion, young people are turning to their smartphones. The differences are also very significant when comparing iPods to iMobile computers. Here we can see in detail how the internet is used for music. Young and old alike generally have very little interest in actually buying music through the internet. However, we see great differences in how the age groups use Web 2.0 to listen to music, get information and free downloads, and use music as a basis for communication. The changes over the 5 years between our two surveys show just how rapidly things are developing. In 2010, smartphones were still considered a luxury item in Austria, and even young people rated it as the least important type of music player. Today, almost every teenager carries one of these online pocket computers everywhere they go. Within just 5 years, the smartphone has become the weapon of choice for listening to music among the under 25ers at the cost of television and compact disc. So to sum up, our empirical survey shows one thing very clearly. The future of music listening in the digital era hinges on the internet and how people use it. For information, communication and receiving music, the extent to which this already applies to the digital natives allow us to surmise that what we are seeing here is more than just a group trend. However, experience shows that established music reception channels are not completely sidelined by new technology. In Western industrialized countries, CDs are a well-rooted cultural technology and are likely to hold on for decades as a way of listening to music. It will be interesting to see if listening to music via older, slower, more awkward and more expensive media such as CDs or even vinyl records will continue to survive as a contrast to the more convenient ways of consuming music. Here I can see a parallel with eating out in restaurants, which, despite frozen pizzas and microwave meals, remains a favorite pastime for those who can afford it. Thank you very much.